day on the program. Trust me on that one. Then at 7:33, State Representative John Payton will stop by in studio. We'll have him on for his impression of the session. Now, the reason, back to Star Parker, I almost forgot. The reason that we're having her on is because she is actually going to be in Arkansas tonight. If you're in the Pope County area, or maybe just in the general Arkansas area, I mean, it's a pretty short drive wherever you are. Star Parker will be speaking at the Pope County Republican Party's Lincoln Day dinner tonight at 6 p.m. So I'm sure, just go online for details about the Pope County Republican Party. But this is a big get, I think. Star Parker, she's done a lot of work, a lot of work on the right. And matter of fact, she's got a weekly column, a syndicated column across the country. Her latest column, we'll be talking about this in an hour, Biden launches presidential campaign with lies. Let's talk about what those lies are. We will here in an hour, as well as talk about the great work she's doing at her organization, CURE. Again, the Center for Urban Renewal and Education. So, anyway, so we got that going for you. Now, what else do we have here? Oh, yeah. So, yesterday, the House went ahead and had a theatrical Judiciary Committee meeting where that one representative from Tennessee brought Kentucky Fried Chicken and ate it because Barr's a chicken and the Tennessee congressman wants to eat Barr, so he ate his chicken. Maybe I'm just taking his analogy a little too far. They also had a rubber chicken. They had an empty chair, and Jerry Nadler did his partisan thing. And then the ranking member of the minority, Congressman Doug Collins, he had an opening statement. And this is what the Republicans said. The media is not going to show you what the Republicans' response to this is. They want you to think that William Barr is not credible, so that when people like James Comey are perp-walked, they're going to say this is a banana republic and Trump is going after political enemies. They have to say that, because if they don't say that, then the media again has been lying to the people for the last 2 years. The media is there's going to get to a point where I don't know how you're going to resolve the corporate media that is all controlled, and they all have the same narratives, the same talking points from a single source, and at some point, I don't know what you do with them. And what I mean by that is, if what I think is going to happen, declassify FISA, actual charges against members of the Obama administration for what they did, which is way worse than Watergate when it comes to spying versus a microphone somewhere in a hotel. This is going to be huge, and the media is going to have no choice, if they're going to be consistent, but to claim that this is somehow illegal for the Justice Department to bring charges against these people. That's why they're going after William Barr right now, because they have to discredit him. They have to tarnish him, because they know what the Inspector General Horowitz is doing and other people are doing and have been doing this whole time. But here's Doug Collins. We'll give him a crack. Go ahead. This is Congressman Doug Collins speaking about a circus. Listen. Or speaking about, I don't know if he actually uses the word circus, but speaking about this circus. Anyway, go ahead, Joe. Sorry, you might just want to refresh it, see if that helps. Hang on, we got to refresh this link real quick, because sometimes Twitter is persnickety. Here we go.
Chairman, let's be very clear. There is only one reason, and one reason only. At this point, we are not being able to fulfill our constitutional role of oversight, and that is the chairman's demands that were played out yesterday. We could have had a hearing today. What bothers me the most about this is not only did, in standing for the questions that were discussed and the issues that have been discussed between me and the chairman, not only did he take the ability for the American people to hear again from Bill Barr, he took our ability to hear from Bill Barr today. To protect, maybe, because some didn't feel like they could ask proper questions. Maybe they wanted more staff questions. Who knows? But yesterday we found this, that he claims that he wants staff to question the Attorney General because the 5 minute per member is not enough. But yet we spent and approved a motion yesterday that said we could do a whole hour, an extra hour, between the chairman and myself. He could have took one of these fabulous members that he has, and he has some excellent attorneys on his side, some of the best. He could have given them all 30 minutes. And they could have questioned the Attorney General any way they wanted to. Instead, we go back to a circus political stunt to say we want it to look like an impeachment hearing because they won't bring impeachment proceedings. That's the reason. Take whatever you want to take. You can go out and have press conferences. You can state it from this dais. You can say whatever you want to have. But the reason Bill Barr is not here today is because the Democrats decided they didn't want him here today. That's the reason he's not here. You could have done anything else you wanted. And what is amazing to me is to say that he is scared of answering questions, to scared that he's not. And you can disagree with the Attorney General all you want, but for yesterday, he sat for over almost 6 hours in the Senate voluntarily asking questions, even on a second round that was taken up by Democrats who wanted to ask more questions. And you can agree, did he do good, did he do bad? It doesn't matter, but we're not getting that opportunity today because the stunt and the circus continues over here.
He did use the word circus.
All we had to do. We agreed to more time. We could talk about executive session, but no. For some reason, for some purpose, except the optics of something they can't do or don't want to do right now, they wanted to have a staff member ask questions. I said before, if that staff member wants to ask questions so desperately, run for Congress. Put a pin on. Find a committee.
I like that.
But you know, I can continue on and on and on about
like the only time I've
issue
heard
that we
that
have
phrase
here,
and I've agreed
the
with it.
impeachment agenda and whatever you want to have, and saying that he's blackmailing this committee, he's terrified to come before this committee. I think yesterday he proved he's not terrified to sit before anybody, especially the Senate, which they actually extended the question time on. He answered the question, whether you like the question or not. As my chairman told me yesterday, it's not a matter of where we agree or disagree on this. We have the motions, we move the motion, we do the motion. You can agree with the Attorney General or disagree with the Attorney General, but not hearing from them is a travesty for this committee today. But I would be remiss if I also
so they didn't
did not
want him
mention
there.
the largest tragedy.
Oh, hey, keep going. What's
of
the
this day.
What's the largest tragedy?
It actually was from yesterday.
Doug Collins, Republican from Georgia.
The chairman just stated a few moments ago that we can't let moments pass, and I agree completely. Because what happened yesterday on this dais was a travesty. When you do not recognize members for valid motions, when you call things dilatory, questioning the
what
motives.
What he's talking about is, people, Republicans on the committee not being heard in that because, Gerald Nadler, is using the power, the majority that he has. I mean, that's essentially what's going on. Okay, so, oh man, this is so rich. So, Congressman Collins from Georgia is right. This was theater, it was a circus, and it was designed to discredit Barr even more because the media can now say Barr is disrespecting Congress because Barr is corrupt. You can't believe anything Barr says. I mean, notice they're now saying, well, Trump's a liar. Trump's terrible. He's a KKK member. He's a KGB agent. He's loyal to the Saudi Arabian government. They're going to say all of these things. And now William Barr. You dare side with Trump, right? And now you're crazy, you're a liar, you're discredited, right? It doesn't matter that he served under H.W. Bush and was considered to be this credible person, but now he's aligned with Trump, so he's not credible. Kanye West used to be known as a hip-hop genius, went to the White House, said some positive things about Trump, some things, and now he's crazy. Kanye West is a crazy person. We're noticing a pattern here, right? Like Tom Brady. Tom Brady, he was, in the sports world, he was, obviously there are people that like Tom Brady, didn't like Tom Brady before Trump. Tom Brady refuses to say a negative thing about Trump. Everyone hates Tom Brady, right? The left even doesn't like Tiger Woods because he plays golf with President Trump and says President Trump's my friend. I may not agree with him on everything, but he's my friend, and also refuses to say something bad about him. By the way, those memes are great about Obama's Tiger versus Trump's Tiger. Yeah. Telephone number 870-275-9799. That's 870-275-9799. Thank everybody. I want to thank everybody out there for watching this program online. We really appreciate it. Please hit the share button. Please hit the like button. Let's go on now to President Trump's comments, shall we? I've got this queued up. We had Fox News' Catherine Herridge. She got to sit down with President Trump, asked him specifically about where does the Russia investigation go from here. Go ahead, click play on that, Joe.
Well, I've had him testifying already for 30 hours.
So is the answer no?
Talking about Don
I don't
McGahn
think I can let him and then tell everybody else you can't, because especially him, because he was a counsel. So they've testified for many hours, all of them. Many people.
So as far as you're concerned, it's really it's kind of done.
I can't say, well, one can and the others can't.
Okay, so is it done?
I would say it's done. We've been through this. Nobody has ever done what I've done. I've given total transparency. It's never happened before like this.
So Congress should be.
Congress shouldn't be looking anymore. This is all. It's done. Even my finances, it must have been looked at for $35 million. I assume they looked at my taxes. I assume that Mueller looked at my financial statements for $35 million, and having 20 people plus 49 FBI agents and all of the staff and all of the money that was spent. I assume they looked at my taxes, which are fine, and I assume, except they are under audit, by the way. I will tell you that officially, because
and the New York Attorney General's coming at you pretty hard.
Well, she campaigned on the fact that, I'm going to get Trump, I'm going to get Trump. So right there, she's precluded from doing anything. I mean, can you imagine somebody campaigning, doesn't know anything about me, and she's campaigning on that fact? So I assume that for the $35 million, they've gone through everything. My taxes, my financial statements, which are phenomenal, they've gone through everything. And I'm so clean. Think of it. After 2.5 years and all of that money spent, nothing. Very few people could have sustained that.
He also went on at length
Stop.
about
Those are the president's comments. And this is over. This is done. This echoes what Lindsey Graham said yesterday as well, or the day before, saying, we're done. It's over. I'm not calling Mueller. If Mueller wants to say something on the record, he can. Something that's contradictory that Barr has said, but this is over, this is done, we're moving on. So it is what it is. The Democrats aren't going to let it go. The media will not let it go. They will not admit that they have been wrong for 2 years. They have the report. They think that there should have been charges filed. I mean, I'm not a lawyer. I know you could find a lawyer somewhere that would say, of course you should have filed charges, but I think that person's probably going to, be a Trump hater. I also think that objectively, though, and listen, yeah, I'm a Trump supporter, but I don't see I don't see how you can charge for obstruction of justice when they spent $30 million. The entire purpose was to find out if Trump colluded with Russia, and he didn't. So what is the obstruction charge about if there's no crime? I don't know. It just all seems contrived. I'll tell you this much. What we're really experiencing is a Trump winning the 2016 election 2.0 right now. This is Trump winning 2.0, because the entire left in 2016 for 18 months was told there's not a chance that Trump's going to win. It'll be Hillary all the way, first woman president, shatter the glass ceiling, and then, of course, oh, no. Then Trump won. Then he had the special counsel. And all of the left, they might as well have made T-shirts that said, Mueller, Rosenstein. You'd have thought that Robert Mueller and Rod Rosenstein were running for president and vice president on the same ticket. I mean, and then guess what? They investigated. The left were huge fans of theirs, and then there was nothing that they could do. They found nothing in terms of what the media said that Trump was already guilty of, which was Russia collusion, Trump campaign in Russia. More news on the possible collusion of the Trump campaign with the Russians. Special counsel Robert Mueller has now indicted Paul Manafort. This is an astonishing revelation and also gives credence to the fact that the president might be on the chopping block. You heard this constantly. And then guess what? Would-be President Mueller and would-be Vice President Rod Rosenstein, I didn't find anything. And so this is the Democrats having Trump derangement syndrome, the media all over again. That's what this is. And it's coupled with the fact that now the investigation's over, the Democrat Party, the DNC, Hillary Clinton, James Comey, Peter Strzok, Andrew McCabe, John Brennan, then you've got Clapper. What's Clapper's first name? Anyway, you've got Clapper. You got all these guys that have potentially committed crimes by weaponizing the intelligence community against a president. Also other politicians, because you have the FBI now. You have, according to Joe DeGeneva, a one-time FISA court attorney, says the FISA court has already told the Justice Department they were lied to, and has also revealed that the FBI had 4 private contractors hired to spy on Americans 4 years prior. And there's many people online that believe one of those Americans was Senator Ted Cruz, meaning anybody that's going to try to, upset Hillary Clinton, that the government was already spying on them in an attempt to thwart any traction they might have. I mean, those are huge allegations, but I'm telling you, there are people who are credible who are saying that they're not allegations, that this has already been turned over to the government. And so what do you got to do? These Democrats, Jerry Nadler, Adam Schiff, these other people, Nancy Pelosi, they are looking forward, and they can see in their minds a press conference with Attorney General William Barr as he is there while charges are being announced on people like James Comey for leaking classified information at the very least, or people like John Brennan, who's a CNN contributor, who according to many people and the reporting of John Solomon and Sarah Carter, is going to need 5 lawyers at least pretty soon. It's Johnny Cash Friday. We got a great show for you. Coming up at 7:05, we'll be talking with Star Parker. You do not want to miss this. It's always, if you know anything about her, she was on Hannity. Every time you watch her on Hannity, it's fantastic. We got to go to break. Back in a minute.
It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
All right, folks, welcome back to the program. Thank you so much for being with us. We're in the process of getting State Representative Nelda Speaks on the line. There were 3 bills. I think three big bills that raise taxes on the people of Arkansas, and that's what we're going to talk about. SB 576 was the to reform the tax laws concerning the levy on collection of sales and use tax. This was internet sales tax. Do we have Nelda on the line? Okay, let's.
Yes, you do.
Hello, State Representative Nelda Speaks. Thanks so much for coming on the program this morning.
Thank you for asking me, Paul.
Now, you are from District 100. Remind our viewers across the state and listeners where that is.
That is the upper portion of Baxter County. It takes in Mountain Home to Lakeview, and then to the Gamelia, Henderson, back over in there.
All right. Well, so let's just get right to it. I'm going to give you the floor. Generally, State Representative Nelda Speaks, what was your impression of the session?
Well, I thought we passed a lot of taxes this time on our people, our citizens, and I think there was some things that got done that was great, but just did seem like a session that there was a lot of taxes that were passed out.
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned that, Nelda, because you actually voted no on, I think, the three big ones. You voted no against the internet tax. You voted no against the half-cent sales tax that's set to expire. They're putting it back on the ballot to make sure we don't want, make sure, do you really want it to sunset? And then you voted against the gas tax increase. So, I really appreciate you. Let me ask you this, Nelda. How did you stand up? How did you vote no on all three of those big tax increase bills when the establishment, had arguments out there trying to get Republicans to support it? And, in fact, were successful. They got enough to support it. All right.
Paul, it really...
Hey, Joe, I almost burned my house down yesterday.
Up and you look at all of these
Did you know that? Well, we were trying to install a chandelier, me and the missus. We were trying to install a chandelier. And I'm not an electrician, but, it's not hard to install a light fixture. That's, pretty easy. But I did something wrong. I think that we had too much wire that we had to cram back up in the ceiling, and I think something happened. And when I went to turn on the light, whoa, man, sparks went everywhere. Now, we'd already tested it. The light was fine before. Then once we actually hung it, sparks went everywhere. And I was like, okay, turn that off. Take everything down, take everything off, and the metal, there's actually part of the metal that the chandelier hangs from, like the screw, had melted. Some of the wiring it melted. So now I got that to worry about this weekend. But anyway, I'm sure many of you handymen out there know exactly what I did wrong, just for me telling you what happened. But anyway. So that's the thing. Hey, also, you know that the state of Arkansas's general revenue for the month of April surged to $958.8 million. So we're now paying record revenue to the state of Arkansas, and they're raising our taxes, net tax increases. The general revenue collections increased $116 million. Or 13.8% over the same month a year ago, and listen to this, exceeded the state's forecast by $125.1 million, or 15%. Now, the context here is we hear articles like this all the time where there is record revenue for a month or the revenue is up, but it always says, so revenue's up, but it's below our forecast, okay? And they do this, in my opinion, because I think they have unrealistic forecasts, and then they're able to say, well, that's why we need more money, that's why we need more tax increases and everything else. But this is a rare occasion where we get an article that says that it's actually above what they forecasted, which is, to me, even more clear-cut evidence that the government has way too much of our money. They have enough of our money, but yet the 92nd General Assembly, because of what they've done, the people are going to be paying more in taxes.
I don't care what the establishment wants. I don't care what other people want. I do try very hard to support my citizens that put me in office, and I knew that Baxter County is a very conservative county, and they did not want this. I know we need highway tax. I'm not highway tax. I don't mean that. We need highway money. But I feel like, Paul, we do not reach out and find places within our revenues and lower other things in order to do it. And until they do some of those things, I cannot support another tax.
And I think most of the people listening to this right now really appreciate that, and they really appreciate that mentality. And I wish more of the politicians down there had that mentality. This is how long have you been serving as a state representative, Nelda?
This is my third term. 2.5 years? 4.5 years. We're into our third term. And 2-year terms. So I'm just, I'm very conservative, Paul, and I just feel like that we are putting such a load on our citizens, especially our middle income people that work so hard, and they have families they're trying to support, and it's just, my heart goes out to them. We've all been there.
So how does this past session compared to the other two that you've been a part of so far?
I actually thought this was one of our hardest sessions. I know every year, every time we go into session, there are some things that they start shoving at us. And but this one here, it drug out all through the session of just big things like the highway tax, the internet tax, and we have a big cigarette tax that got put on the citizens.
Yes.
Which I don't smoke, but I feel like every time we reach out, we look for a sin tax that we can tax more on them, and I think we're taxing our citizens to the point that it's such a load on them. Mm-hmm. I tried to find out if you take into consideration, Paul, all of the taxes that just we keep putting on our citizens, and how much out of a dollar bill do they actually get to bring home?
Oh, it's quite a bit. I mean, when you add up the federal and state and local, I mean, it's probably 50%, if not more.
I figured it's at least 60%, but I have not been able to get that answer.
Yeah. Well,
but that's...
You're right. We're talking with State Representative Nelda Speaks. You're right. I think that in Arkansas specifically, we're at a breaking point. We have one of the highest sales taxes in the nation. We've got one of the we were number 17th on the list of worst places to live when it comes to the tax code. We're 44th in income in the United States, and so we've got a lot of work that we can do. Nelda, feel free to talk about some of the good things that happened, in terms of the social issues. But I'd like to ask you this: do you think it's apparent, based on the tax increases, that we have a lot more consensus on the social issues, but we don't have that same consensus on economic freedom issues and smaller government issues?
I think that's what's happening, since that's the one thing I guess I've been more surprised in when I came into office. You begin to see a lot of that even in your county government.
KFC, man. I don't understand why this Democrat's getting away with eating KFC because they're saying Barr was a chicken yesterday. I mean, it's a big bucket of KFC with the Colonel on it. The Colonel is a symbol of systematic racism and white privilege. Has been for generations. I don't know why this Democrat's getting a pass. Well, I know why he's getting a pass. Because Democrats were the party of slavery. So I don't know if we've seen, I mean, maybe we've got the Democrat Party here, a rare glimpse of them actually embracing who they are instead of trying to pretend that some point in the 60s the Republicans and Democrats had a diplomatic meeting where they decided to take each other's positions.
And the dim voter base is like, oh, this is hilarious.
Yeah. All right, so there's an Alabama state representative who is kind of almost becoming the new Hank Capsize Johnson. By the way, Hank Capsize Johnson was out there, bloviating. I that's incredible to me. Hank Capsize Johnson is out there, like, can you believe what is going on with William Barr not testifying? This guy thought that Guam would capsize and tip over. It's like my all-time favorite clip. One of them, I mean, just because it shows you, like, just how intellectually challenged some people are, and they keep getting reelected. Like, you are a United States congressman for some district in Georgia. That's Hank Capsize Johnson. And he is sitting there in front of a naval officer, and he is seriously asked the question, I'm afraid that the island will become so overly populated that the island will tip over and capsize. And then the naval officer is with a straight face, sir, well, we don't anticipate that happening. I don't know how many square miles that is. Do you happen to know? Well, what I am afraid of is William Barr will turn into a chicken, and congressmen from Tennessee will eat him. Is that a concern of yours? Here is Alabama State Representative John Rogers, who said this in response to the criticism he received based on his pro-abortion comments. He received criticism from Donald Trump Jr. Joe, cue this up. You got to listen to this. Go.
Earlier today, Donald Trump Jr. condemned your comments. Your response to the president's son.
Hey, that's an honor. Donald Trump Jr. did that. Thank God. Right on. That's definitely no right. Because I don't know nothing he's been right on since he's been here. That proved the right to make a decision about abortion. Him being born, that's proved the right to. That's a very, very good defense I have for abortion right to him. Look at him and say, why don't you aborted him when he was born? But he would have made that stupid statement, right? So his parents made a decision for him. That's a decision he made for him. So that's the first proof I got. Mother had a right to have abortion. They made a decision to have him, didn't they? They could have aborted him. But they made a decision to keep him. Because he's evidently retarded. Crazy. Donald Trump's son, I know he's something wrong with that.
Donald Trump is, quote, retarded.
Hey, that's the
Donald Trump Jr. is, quote, retarded and should have been aborted. There we go. I just love, like, I wonder if there were progressives out there that were like, yeah, he should have been aborted. Yeah, he's crazy. And then the guy's like, and, he's retarded. And they're like, oh, man.
Went too far there.
Oh, you went from, like, this bastion of progressivism, and then, yeah, that's why we need abortions for population control. That's so we can get rid of the unwanted people. Donald Trump Jr.'s mom should have killed him. He's retarded. Oh my goodness! I watched that video 10 times last night. Man, I shared it with my friends. Let's listen to his original comments, shall we? So originally, the state representative from Alabama, Representative John Rogers, said, by the way, he calls Donald Trump Jr., quote, retarded. And I just want to bring up projection for a moment. Let's refer back to what projection is. Here is the original comments. It's a Twitter video. Donald Trump Jr. retweeted it. Go ahead. It's Ryan Saavedra from we want to listen to his comment. Here's Alabama State Representative John Rogers. Listen to this. Oh, okay. Sorry. Here we go. Okay. Of course not. Oh, that she was saying rape or incest. Oh, yeah. You kill them now, you kill them later. It doesn't make any difference. Life is nothing. Life is meaningless. It's just a bunch of chemicals that come together and do some things, and then you die. And this is the kind of, really, the thought behind all of this is just a reflection of the evil that's in the human heart, of not wanting to appreciate the blessings that we have for simply existing in the first place. So let's go from that back to the comments of Donald Trump Jr. What did Donald Trump Jr. actually say, though, in the tweet? He said, "This is stomach curling and makes Ralph Northam, the governor of, is it North Carolina, look like a moderate on abortion." That's the guy that was like, well, we're going to make them comfortable, and then we'll mother after they're born, and then the mother and the doctor will decide. Every Democrat running for president needs to be asked where they stand on this. The extreme turn we've seen from Dems on abortion recently is truly sickening. So, Alabama State Representative, go ahead one more time. Let's hear it. Let's hear it, and maybe we do a play-by-play of what maybe the progressives would be thinking. Be like, this Alabama State Rep, Democrat in the Deep South, making some good points here, right? Go ahead.
Donald Trump Jr. condemned your comments. Do you have a response to the president's son?
Hey, that's an honor. Donald Trump Jr. did that. Thank God. Right on. That's if you know him right. Because I don't know nothing. He's been right on since he's been here. That proved the right to make a decision about abortion. Him being born, that's proved the right to. That's a very, very good defense I have for abortion right to him. Look at him and say, why don't you have aborted him when he was born? He would have made that stupid statement, right? So his parents made a decision for him. That's a decision he made for him. So that's the first proof I got. That mother all had a right to have abortion. They made a decision to have him, didn't they? They could have aborted him, but they made a decision to keep him because he's evidently retarded. Crazy.
Evidently.
Donald Trump's son, I know he's something wrong with that boy. I look at him and tell something wrong with him. He should, hey, that's the best defense I got for abortion right there, looking at him.
Now that last part is actually saying you can look at him and tell there's something wrong with him. And so they're saying that he should be that he should have been aborted. Let's just keep handing these guys shovels, shall we? Oh, he's just a guy. He's just an Alabama State rep. Joe, you're right. He's a Democrat nonetheless, but it's not even that. I mean, Democrats approach arguments now. They didn't used to do this. But when a Democrat goes to argue with a Republican now, they assume that they are morally superior. And that's what you see there from, just a random state representative from Alabama. But that's what you would also see from Nancy Pelosi or Chuck Schumer, all the way to the top. When they go in, they don't go in attempting to actually solve a problem or get something done anymore. They go in assuming they are morally superior, not by a little bit, but they go in assuming that the person they're talking to is morally bankrupt completely, and that they are essentially divine compared to the opinions of somebody on the right. This is how they argue at college campuses now. This is why the left turns violent and tries to shut down free speech of conservatives, because they believe that they are so morally superior and they are godlike in their minds that they then have the right to essentially pour out their wrath on Berkeley. Now, think about this. That makes a ton of sense if you really think about they are approaching everything as if they are morally superior, divine in some way. And so that's why when they hear something, they don't want to argue as equals in the arena of ideas, both admitting that we're all flawed. They think they are so far above in their thinking. They think that man's nature has evolved in them, but we are we've somehow missed the evolutionary curve, and that we can somehow, with pieces of paper, if we pass this law or pass this law, we can actually correct the nature of man and make ourselves, get out of this. They doubt. I think they doubt the just the universal. They doubt what the founding fathers knew, which was that government needs to be small and limited, not because it's just something they thought of, but because it's practical when you understand that human beings will naturally, eventually, are going to take government power and use it to oppress people they don't like in some way, which is what we've seen with Andrew McCabe, James Comey, the FBI, weaponizing of intelligence agencies. This is why you had the Fourth Amendment to begin with, okay? You had the Fourth Amendment to keep your privacy private, right? And then you have these intelligence agencies, and they couldn't resist making them political and using them for their own advantage. Right there alone, you have the depravity of the heart and what we will do with power. Not a question of why would you use that. The question is why wouldn't you use it? Because it's there and no one's going to find out about it. So you thought. So, anyway, the morally superior thing is a huge problem. I don't know how you get over it. Because how do you engage the left when they refuse to come to the table? Most of them refuse to come to the table and, talk as equals and try to actually come to some common ground. It's a frustrating thought. But anyway. Let's see here. What else do we have? Oh, coming up on the program, I want to remind you, we're going to be talking with Star Parker. She's going to be speaking tonight at the Pope County Republican Party's Lincoln Day dinner. That is tonight at 6 o'clock. And Star Parker, of course, you can find out more about her organization, CURE, at urbancure.org. She also has some great articles over at starparker.com. But the urbancure.org, of course, stands for CURE, Center for Urban Renewal and Education. You've seen Star Parker on, Fox News, Tucker Carlson, Sean Hannity. You've seen her in the great work that she's done, Fox and Friends. So anyway, we'll be talking with her at 7:05 coming up here in just a minute. Also at 7:33 this morning, State Representative John Payton will be sitting right here in studio, so we'll get our second camera up and ready, and we'll be getting his impression of the session. Did anybody see this headline in the Gazette? I saw it. Not a huge fan. Now, it's compiled by Democrat Gazette staff from Wire reports, so it's no wonder that the Wire says that Trump rule allows denial of health care, saying no, okay, if service against religious beliefs. They wasn't a couple of weeks ago, Donald Trump said, that the Republican Party will become the party of great health care. And so the media says, well, now he's denying health care. This is about conscience protection. That's all this is. But the headline, denial of health care. Yeah. See, that is so ridiculous. What a misleading headline that is. Trump is allowing and promoting the First Amendment, one of the 5 freedoms in the First Amendment, which is the freedom of religion, which is essentially conscience protection as well. And your headline is Trump rule allows denial of health care, when it's really about religious freedom on the National Day of Prayer, by the way, yesterday, which I failed to mention. By the way, if anybody out there uses the YouVersion Bible app, the verse of the day is actually pray without ceasing. I found that interesting from Thessalonians, pray without ceasing. I found that interesting in terms of the fact that yesterday was National Day of Prayer. That's all. No coincidences. 870-275-9799. That's 870-275-9799. The way I took it was National Day of Prayer. Yesterday, don't stop. I'll just make it a one-day thing. 870-275-9799. It's Johnny Cash Friday. Got to take a break, and we'll be back in just a moment.
Paul, all of the taxes that just we keep putting on our citizens, and how much out of a dollar bill do they actually get to bring home?
Oh, it's quite a bit. I mean, when you add up the federal and state and local, I mean, it's probably 50%, if not more.
I figured it's at least 60%, but I have not been able to get that answer.
Yeah. Well,
but that's...
You're right. We're talking with State Representative Nelda Speaks. You're right. I think that in Arkansas specifically, we're at a breaking point. We have one of the highest sales taxes in the nation. We've got one of the we were number 17th on the list of worst places to live when it comes to the tax code. We're 44th in income in the United States, and so we've got a lot of work that we can do. Nelda, feel free to talk about some of the good things that happened, in terms of the social issues. But I'd like to ask you this. Do you think it's apparent, based on the tax increases, that we have a lot more consensus on the social issues but we don't have that same consensus on economic freedom issues and smaller government issues.
I think that's what's happening, since that's the one thing I guess I've been more surprised in when I came into office. You begin to see a lot of that even in your county government, that's where I came from. And you see that people really, Republicans, we'll talk about them because I am a Republican, that we stand for, it's easy for us to stand up here on the social part. And we're for guns, we are against abortions, we're against gay rights, we're against those things. But then when you come to the physical part, it just doesn't seem to bother.
Are you a conservative-minded young person and want to let the world know about it? Are you tired of rolling your eyes as your professor regurgitates progressive, PC, neo-Marxist nonsense? Then you should interview on Conduit News Radio's Young Conservative segment and tell us about why you believe the way you do. Tell us how you came to be a conservative and what are your views on government. Now, if you're worried that your neo-Marxist professor may also be a right-wing talk radio listening masochist, then names can be changed to protect the innocent. It's the Conduit News Radio Conservative Future segment. To be interviewed, call 870-275-9799. That's 870-275-9799. If you're like me, you believe that small business is the heart of Arkansas's economic engine, and it should be viewed that way by the politicians in Little Rock. Conduit for Commerce also believes, like you and I believe, policies that achieve less regulation and lower taxation help small business in Arkansas thrive. Other policies like small, constitutionally consistent government and reducing citizen dependency on government keeps it from growing and expanding its influence on our daily lives. Conduit for Commerce works every day to educate the general public and legislators on these important priorities in the name of Arkansas small business. By the way, contributions to Conduit for Commerce are tax deductible. Log on now to conduitforcommerce.org and click on Contact Us on the right side of the page. That's conduitforcommerce.org. Go there now and learn the facts on protecting small business in Arkansas.
For any tax that they throw at us. And I don't know, can't seem to stand up against the establishment. They don't seem to understand what in the long haul we are doing to our citizens.
Well, there are people like you, Nelda, who seem to have it figured out. Why can't there just be more Nelda Speaks in the Arkansas General Assembly?
Well, I don't know. I don't know what causes it.
Yeah, that's a terrible question. I'll take that one back. But you know what I mean. That's just.
I know. You don't bother me, Paul.
But yeah. I mean, it just. I'm glad that. Well, let me ask you this. I've been asking everybody this, and I think I already know the answer based on, immediately where you went in this interview. But the bottom line is this: the people of Arkansas were giving X amount of money to the government before the 92nd General Assembly, and after the 92nd General Assembly, we're going to be giving more to the government. Do you agree with that?
I do. I agree very much. The one thing that really bothers me about the highway, I feel like, yes, we have asked. We passed a law that the highway departments will have to start stepping up and telling us, giving us some things where they're going to use money on. But it's almost like we give these just a blank check to people, and we do not know where they're going to spend it. What roads they're going to fix, what highways they're going to work on, and I think we need to hear. We need to know before you start doing that.
Yeah.
But on the other side of this thing. We passed, what was it, 2 years ago, the tax on the tires.
Yes.
Which was to bring $1 million in. That went into just our regular income to be used for just the regular things.
Mm-hmm.
And why didn't that go for the highway?
Yeah.
I mean, there's $1 million right there. And so we don't look for places that should be going to your highways. And we drive back and forth from Little Rock to Mountain Home, and I'm in the.
All right, folks, welcome back to the program. Thanks so much for being with us today. If you're just joining us, we've had an interesting hour where we kind of recapped what went on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. yesterday. We also told you that the state of Arkansas has record revenue for the month of April. And it is 15% over the Department of Finance Administration's projections. We're talking about in April, they got $958.8 million that went from you to the state of Arkansas, a record. And so that is it's crazy. I mean, here in the third paragraph, April's total collections of $958.8 million exceeded the previous record for any month. The previous record was $842.8 million, set in April 2018. April. What are people doing in April? Yeah, settling up. Settling up with Mother Government. I will tell you that this is another example, a rare example, where we have proof. I mean, we have proof all year round, but we're giving the government a lot of our money. And we've got to continue to push this idea of economic literacy, where our politicians understand that the people just simply can't continue to pay more and more taxes. There is a line, there is a tipping point. We're the 17th worst place to live in this country. We're an average blue state if you look at where we are on tax policy in terms of where we rank. I'm not talking about structure now, but where we rank. 44th also when it comes to, almost dead last when it comes to income, per capita income. I think that number 17, I think we're dead last in income, or almost dead last in income. We're at the bottom because we are taxed too much by our government.
The news and talk of Northeast Arkansas. This is News Talk 101.3 FM and 12:30 AM KBTM, Jonesboro, an EAB radio station.
For any tax that they throw at us. And I don't know, can't seem to stand up against the establishment. They don't seem to understand what in the long haul we are doing to our citizens.
Well, there are people like you, Nelda, who seem to have it figured out. Why can't there just be more Nelda Speaks in the Arkansas General Assembly?
Well, I don't know. I don't know what causes it.
Yeah, that's a terrible question. I'll take that one back. But you know what I mean. That's just.
I know. You don't bother me, Paul.
But yeah. I mean, it just. I'm glad that. Well, let me ask you this. I've been asking everybody this, and I think I already know the answer based on, immediately where you went in this interview. But the bottom line is this: the people of Arkansas were giving X amount of money to the government before the 92nd General Assembly, and after the 92nd General Assembly, we're going to be giving more to the government. Do you agree with that?
I do. I agree very much. The one thing that really bothers me about the highway, I feel like, yes, we have asked, we passed a law that the highway departments will have to start stepping up and telling us, giving us some things where they're going to use money on. But it's almost like we give these just a blank check to people, and we do not know where they're going to spend it. what roads they're going to fix, what highways they're going to work on. And I think we need to hear. We need to know before you start doing that.
Yeah.
But on the other side of this thing, we passed, what was it, 2 years ago, the tax on the tires.
Yes.
Which was to bring $1 million in. That went into just our regular income to be used for just the regular things.
Mm-hmm.
And why didn't that go for the highway?
Yeah.
I mean, there's $1 million right there. And so we don't look for places that should be going to your highways. And we drive back and forth from Little Rock to Mountain Home, and the roads are terrible. I will agree, they are. And I know we are a small state, but we just can't keep loading our citizens on the backs of them more and more, taking away from them. You're going to have to start cutting expenditures and look from inside.
Yeah, cut spending. I agree. Oh, and by the way, that road from Little Rock to Mountain Home is one of my favorite drives to make because it is so much fun. You know, you have to pay attention. You gotta be alert, alive, alert, awake, and enthusiastic to make that drive. So Nelda speaks. Let me ask you about what happened towards the end of the session. Towards the end of the session, like right before you guys were scheduled to recess and basically end it all, a federal judge says, hey, Arkansas work requirements are illegal, and they basically, they end the internet portal where you report your work requirements and everything else, and there seemed to be, at least for maybe a day or so, some expression by the House saying maybe we need to wait, pause, get some assurances, and then, of course, the budget was approved. So what were your thoughts when all that happened?
At first I thought that maybe we woke up to some things. I've never felt like they really forced people to work. I thought that was just a thing that's thrown out there that sounds good. But for them to actually have to go to work, those that able-bodied people that's getting all of the entitlements, that they actually may have to go to work. And then here comes from the federal judge, and they've been throwing this up for
I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers.
They seem to be in full-scale retreat from spending cuts and are talking about raising people's taxes again. And I have only one thing to say to the tax increasers. Go ahead, make my day.
If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. Those who would trade our freedom for security have embarked on this downward course. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell is on now.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the program. It is Friday, and this is hour number 2. You've found the intersection of conservative ideas and reality. We're building a liberty machine here, and we need your help to do it. Just keep listening. That's the best way you can do it. You can sound off about the program, call, text 870-275-9799, or over at the Facebook page, facebook.com/Conduit News. Like us on or follow us on YouTube. Click the little bell to receive notifications. Now, this is a pretty exciting day, especially if you're in Pope County, especially if you are a member of the Pope County Republican Party, because tonight's their Lincoln Day dinner. And the speaker, the special speaker that they're having, the keynote, is someone that you're familiar with, especially if you have, if you watch Fox News and you've seen her on television. Star Parker is her name, and she is the president of CURE, which stands for the Center for Urban Renewal and Education. Find out more at urbancure.org. And Star is with us now on the phone. Star, welcome to the program.
Well, thank you. It's good to be with you.
Absolutely.
Especially since you love liberty.
Absolutely, we do. Absolutely, we do. Now, Star, I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with who you are, and they're very excited tonight. Pope County Lincoln Day dinner, and it's going to start at 6 o'clock. Can you just first, but in case people don't know, can you tell us a little bit about your organization, CURE, and what you do there?
Well, I'll tell you how I got there. First of all, and I will share this evening, that I believed all the lies of the left. I was not one that embraced liberty and freedom. I believed that my problems were somebody else's fault. I believed that America was racist, so I shouldn't mainstream. I believed that I was poor because others were wealthy, and I got caught up in a whole lot of reckless living as a result of not taking personal responsibility and the virtues of freedom. So ended up criminal activity, drug activity, sexual activity, ended up on welfare, and then God found me. And after a Christian conversion, I changed my life. I went to college. I got a degree in marketing and international business, started one. It was destroyed in the 1992 Los Angeles riots. And that's when I began to focus on social reform, to start focusing on our public policy. Fast forward, I ended up consulting on federal welfare reform in the 90s. It backfired on us a little bit when regime change happened in Washington, D.C. And about 10 years ago, I set up shop in D.C., called the Center for Urban Renewal and Education. So what we do basically, I tell people we're a think and do tank. What we do is 3 Ps. Where do we do the 3 Ps? In 4 3 Cs, and then we do them in 3 Ps. And so what does that mean? Well, we preserve, we protect, and we promote 3 Cs: Christianity, capitalism, and our Constitution. And where do we do this? In public policy, in public square, and in poor communities. So we work directly with the White House and the Congress to get the government out of charity by changing anti-poverty laws. We are very active in rapid response in media. I think my column even runs here in the local paper, but I also, we umbrella blackcommunitynews.com to get the truth out about these discussions we're having. And then we work in poor communities through a clergy program. We have about 850 or so center-right clergy who serve in our most stressed zip codes, and so we educate and equip and empower them to go into their communities and make a difference. That, in a nutshell, is Star Parker.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. That is a great, opening, speech to let people know who you are. Again, we're talking with Star Parker. She's president of CURE. She's got a great story. You say that God found you, and you had a Christian conversion, and it was from that basis that things kind of started to change. So I would wonder, do you think poverty is just a material issue? Are there other circumstances when we look at poverty than just not having things?
Well, absolutely. There are many components to poverty. It's one of the reasons that we want the government out of the anti-poverty business. There's no one-size-fits-all solution when you discuss what has happened to individuals in their lives. Therefore, we need them. We need to reassess this. Is this local work, or is this, federal government work? The uniqueness of man and the set of circumstances one is born into might say you have a material poverty, as you call it. But the beauty of our country is you don't have to stay there. That's what makes us so exceptional in the world. Is that as we have, as a nation, taken on the principles of Christianity, the virtues of capitalism, and a rule of law outlined in a constitution that's for all of us, it builds that uniqueness that the set of circumstances you're born into do not have to be your future. And so we want to keep the role of government limited when it comes to the lives of the poor, so that they will have options, so that they will be able to break out if it's all material. But if you're asking about a social side, is there a cultural side? Oh, absolutely there is, especially if you buy the lies that I bought to believe that somebody else should be taking care of you.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that is what I'm referring to. I'm referring to the idea of, and you mentioned we need to get the government out. We need to reassess. Does it need to be more local? My thought is when you do have somebody who can kind of push in and can be charitable and can try to take care of somebody that is not as well off as you are, but then you also are going to see maybe habits, or maybe there are relationships that are not healthy, or fixing those things can also help. And then, but if you're just getting the same check and there's nobody that's trying to help or trying to love you or push into your life, it's not as effective.
That's exactly right. That's why charity belongs to private sector, churches, community, nonprofit organizations, where they ask deeper questions in the individual's lives to help them fix what is broken down. It fascinates me how much the hard left forces against these opportunities. In fact, lawsuits are now going up to the Supreme Court just for this very reason that people want to help those that are in distress. The government puts it off limits in many instances. We're working right now. The White House has this initiative to allow for a capital gain benefit in our most distressed zip codes, and the left is fighting it aggressively. And yet, on the same token, they say, well, these people need work, they need jobs. Well, you create an economy because you've deregulated and reduced taxation against businesses that then allows for these folks to take work. It's still not good enough. So I agree with you 100% that this work is local. When somebody has a breakdown in their personal life, they need someone that's looking into their life to help them, not a federal bureaucrat out in Washington, D.C. It's underappreciated that we spend $900 billion a year on these anti-poverty programs. It is a quarter of our federal budget, $900 billion on these anti-poverty programs, and then less than 20 cents on a dollar actually gets to the households that Americans think that they're trying to help. So, yeah, let's reverse this and get the nonprofit back in the lives of those that they really care about and want to help on a very, very local level.
The Pope County Republican Party is hosting Star Parker. She will be in Pope County tonight in Arkansas for the Pope County Republican Party's Lincoln Day dinner. It starts at 6 o'clock, folks, so find out more if that's something that you're interested in. I already know there's a lot of interest in this, and Star, we so appreciate you talking with us. Now, Star, I was reading your column. I know you have several columns. I believe you have a column every week. You're syndicated nationally. Mm-hmm. Your latest one, or at least the one that I have, we have this article about Joe Biden. Biden launches presidential campaign with lies. What are those lies?
Well, the first one he started with was the lie of what happened in Charlottesville and what the president said about what happened in Charlottesville. And we're going to correct the record every single time, because as we move into 2020, which is where much focus is for those of us that are based in Washington, D.C., we understand what's at stake. As Joe Biden pointed out, it's the heart and soul of the country. So we have to ask ourselves, what does this mean? What is the real culture war about? I believe it's about those, or between those that want this nation to be biblical and free, and those that want this nation to be secular and statist. And Joe Biden is on the side of those that want this nation to be secular and statist. And statist includes collectivism, socialism, communism, Marxism, and all the rest of these ideas that individuals should not make decisions over their individual lives. Let the government make those decisions for you. So this is the real struggle. But what the left knows well is that people are intimidated when they interject race, when we interject the problems of the past in America. And so that's what Joe Biden is doing. That's the first lie. And I don't even know that he's going to move away from that lie, because he's got a lot of problems in his life. So what we're going to hear over the next 20 months is how racist this country is, and how everybody that supports the president must be a part of the neo-Nazi regime. And we have to fight it. And that's why I wrote that column. And yes, I do write every week. My column is syndicated. I believe it's in your local paper, and I appreciate all that support it, and write the editors and let them know how much you appreciate it, so that it will counter the ones that are telling them to remove me from the paper, which we get all over the country.
Oh, I'm sure. Sure.
Oh, my gosh, it's a battle right there just to stay in the public square. I mean, they're after us. They're after anyone that ever appears on Fox. They're after anyone that ever appears on the right. Anyone that shines any kind of light anywhere in this country, whether it's university campus or high school, is under attack. So we appreciate those in your audience that love liberty.
Back to Joe Biden real quick. He was given a speech. I don't remember if it was to the NAACP but I think this was several years ago, and he's talking about the idea of electing Republicans, and he said, they going to put y'all back in chains. Is that, as a African-American woman, does that, I mean, do you think this is some manipulation? There's manipulation going on?
We know it. Who was the ones that had blacks in chains? It was the Democrats, the very party he represents. We know what this is. We know that he is just going to inflame the discussion the same way that he did the last time. We're seeing it already with him starting in Charlottesville. But the challenge that they have is that, people think about black vote Republican in terms of the percentage, and it is that. I mean, when you have 22% of African Americans polling as conservatives, but only 8% vote Republicans, you got to ask yourself, what are the other 14% thinking about? And that's what I do at CURE. That's our work over there to get down into the ideas of truth, so that these folks recognize that they're voting against their very values. But when you think about them numerically, that 8% that the Republicans get, that's 1.2 million African Americans. So our job is to say, well, just bring a friend the next time to the voting booth. And the left knows this. Joe Biden knows this. That's why he tried to use racial language that last election cycle when he made that speech. They're going to put y'all back in check. We're tired of it. What this president has done is put a whole lot of money in everybody's pocket, including high school dropouts' pockets. So it'd be hard-pressed to make the case that Republicans are looking forward to putting them back in chains. No, actually, Republicans are looking forward to more freedom. We want to get to the really weakest link, the most lost sheep, and have them benefit in the fruits of this great country as well. So, yeah, and as African-American woman, it grows tiring to hear the Democrats every day as if we all are so stupid we can't read through their rhetoric. So you think,
what do you think the percentage is? I saw one poll when in Trump's first year, 15% African American approval. A year later, that same poll had it like at 28%. If that's true, then the Democrats are going to have a hard time winning in the future.
The only way that they could is if they keep these lies up and intensify them to the place where we are at war. And they do plan to do that. Black Lives Matter is gearing up for some major protests. It's already to the place, as you noticed, and many are noticing that anyone in the Trump administration and or those of us in the public square are in security protection programs. Yeah, you're absolutely right. No, but people vote. They vote their concern, not their comfort. And what's happening under this administration is more Americans are becoming very comfortable. They have that comfort level. They were afraid under the Barack Obama administration because we were broke. They were expanding government to places that it should never reach. And now this administration has corrected much of that. So people are getting more comfortable. When you're comfortable, you're not going to vote against your comfort. And so, yes, there is a lot of fear within the Democrat Party for how they can play race enough to scare blacks back onto their agenda. But blacks are not going back to their agenda. These numbers are solid that you're quoting. You've got some going back and forth and some not even taking polls, but they're comfortable. When you can have this type of unemployment rate where the most of your community is working, you just can't sell that person to say it's better to be unemployed. Once you have a little bit of money in your pocket, you're more empowered. And once you're more empowered, you make many more decisions on behalf of that empowerment. So now levels of personal responsibility increase. And that's what we want, everyone to participate in Americanism. And that's what this president is encouraging for all of us to do.
You can read her nationally syndicated column at starparker.com. She's going to be in Arkansas tonight, folks. You don't want to miss it. The Pope County Republican Party's Lincoln Day dinner. That's tonight at 6 o'clock. Star Parker, president of CURE. You can find more about that at urbancure.org, the Center for Urban Renewal and Education. Star Parker, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for spending some time with us this morning.
You are welcome. I hope I can meet you tonight.
I won't be in attendance. I'm over on the other side of the state, but yeah, at some point, yes, some point soon.
Okay.
Yes.
Some point we will.
Thank you, Star.
Especially if you're ever in Washington D.C., look for me.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend, folks. We're going to take a break and be back here. We have State Representative John Payton in studio. This is a first. He's normally calling me from, I don't know what district. Where are you from? Heber, Cleburne County, Heber Springs, somewhere in there, or up. Not Heber, not quite. That's too far south. But anyway, we got John Payton with us, and we'll be talking to him in just a minute. Don't go anywhere.
Sometime that you can't force people to work, and so then when they started in, well, they wasn't going to vote for this, and they started pushing back, and then you begin to see that it looked good, sounded good, but in the end, they're going to do it. They're not going to take the stand and force the hand of I call it the Obamacare, and we've kicked that can down the road, Paul, right now to where we're beginning to see that we can't afford it. What we've been saying all along ever since I've been down there, that our state cannot sustain this thing.
Is that why we're raising taxes on the people?
Yes, it is.
Mm-hmm.
It is. What is it, $60 billion that we're having to fund right now on and above what we've been funding?
Well, yeah, I think 50. It was originally 3 years ago. Our share was projected to be, I think, 53 million, and this year our share is 138. So it's, I mean, and that was from the governor's office. That was his estimate. It'd be 53 million this year, and instead it's 138 million. So, and it's a $2 billion a year program, but we're going to have to pay more and more and more. And if you start to look at, we had to come up with $138 million, and then they cut the income tax by $95 million in the next 2 years sometime. These tax increases, though, like the gas tax, starts in October. The internet sales tax starts collecting in July. So they're certainly, and that's why in the first couple of fiscal years here, you do have these massive tax increases on the people, practically speaking. And Nelda, from what I can tell, because I know there's going to be other people that say no, it was it's actually tax cuts, but the fact of the matter is nobody's going to care what the fiscal impact is in year 3, because another legislature is going to meet and they can undo everything that was done. And by the way, in fiscal year 3, it's by DFNA's own numbers, we're still looking at more burdens on the people, from what I can tell, according to the numbers. So anyway, it's from a conservative economic standpoint, a fiscal conservative standpoint, it's very frustrating right now for us.
Sure it is. And should be. I mean, when I look down here listing all the taxes that I know that we did do, and we're not even talking about the fees and fines and all of that, that's also got put on the citizens. Yes, we've cut over here, but on the other hand, we have raised, so I don't think they're balancing out at all when you look at everything. And when these all go into, it's a shell game.
Yes. Yeah. No, they're not. They're not balancing out. Matter of fact, just got a text message from somebody who was curious exactly what the numbers are. We're actually asking the audience, what do you think the number is going to be? Exactly how much do you think the increase is going to be when it's all said and done for the first fiscal year, second fiscal year? State Representative Nelda Speaks, it's always great to have you on, and I really appreciate you being honest with us and just speaking the truth, the reality of the situation. I appreciate your votes against those tax increases. I know the people of your district, as well as the people of Arkansas, do as well, and you're a happy warrior, and just by talking to you, you can tell that you are, and yet you still stick to your principles, and I'm so thankful for that.
Thank you so much, Paul. I appreciate that.
All right.
And it's always nice to hear from the citizens while we're in session, encouraging us not to do some of these things, and it's enjoyable to serve the citizens.
Nelda Speaks, thank you so much for coming on. Have a great week.
You too, Paul. Thank you
Alrighty.
so much for inviting me.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Bye-bye.
Anytime. Folks, we're going to take a break. Going to be back here in just a moment.
It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
All right, folks, welcome back to the program. Thank you so much for being with us. We're in the process of getting State Representative Nelda Speaks on the line. There were three bills. I think three big bills that raised taxes on the people of Arkansas, and that's what we're going to talk about. SB 576 was the to reform the tax laws concerning the levy on collection of sales and use tax. This was internet sales tax. Do we have Nelda on the line? Okay, let's.
Yes, you do.
Hello, State Representative Nelda Speaks. Thanks so much for coming on the program this morning.
Thank you for asking me, Paul.
Now, you are from District 100. Remind our viewers across the state and listeners where that is.
That is the upper portion.
All right, folks,
of
welcome back to the program.
County. Takes in Mountain
Johnny Cash
Home,
Friday,
the
870-275-979. Now, we got
the,
this is ridiculous here. We have Congressman Cohen from Tennessee, a Democrat. He brings a rubber chicken to the hearing yesterday that William Barr did not attend. And he brings KFC, which is I don't know. I mean, got a big bucket of KFC with the Colonel's face on there. I know, but I mean, they're calling Barr a chicken, and then he eats the chicken, which is weird. But again, KFC it's fitting because Colonel Sanders, the whole idea, plantation lifestyle, fried chicken, slavery. He's a Democrat, so in a way, it's kind of being honest. Like, don't get me wrong, I love the Colonel's chicken. Matter of fact, one time I was driving Herman Cain to the airport. Herman Cain, the guy, ran for president, 999 plan. He recently withdrew from the family. One time I was driving Herman Cain to the airport. This is a true story. Me and a friend. And so I'm driving him to the airport. He had just done his radio program, his nationally syndicated radio program in a hotel in Jonesboro. He was here for an Americans for Prosperity event. I needed to drive him to the airport. And Herman Cain gets in the car and says, before we go to the airport, it's Wednesday, and this is KFC day. We got to go to KFC. And so I'm like, okay, all right. Herman Cain wants some fried chicken, so you go to KFC. He gets his fried chicken, and it was interesting because he said to me, Herman Cain, he was like, I don't understand why KFC is moving back towards the Colonel, because for a while there they really were, the Colonel wasn't central to their marketing like it used to be, but they were bringing the Colonel back, and Herman was like, I don't understand why they're doing the Colonel thing. And anyway, we had an interesting conversation about the Colonel, me and Herman Cain, but we're going to be right back with State Representative John Payton. I'm out of time.
Oh, Gamelia Henderson back over in there.
All right. Well, so let's just get right to it. I'm going to give you the floor. Generally, State Representative Nelda Speaks, what was your impression of the session?
Well, I thought we passed a lot of taxes this time on our people, our citizens, and I think there was some things that got done that was great, but just did seem like a session that there was a lot of taxes that were passed out.
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned that, Nelda, because you actually voted no on, I think, the three big ones. You voted no against the internet tax. You voted no against the half-cent sales tax that's set to expire. They're putting it back on the ballot to make sure we don't want, make sure, do you really want it to sunset? And then you voted against the gas tax increase. So, I really appreciate you. Let me ask you this, Nelda. How did you stand up? How did you vote no on all three of those big tax increase bills when the establishment, had arguments out there trying to get Republicans to support it? And, in fact, were successful. They got enough to support
it. Paul, it really, when I make my mind up and you look at all of these things, I don't care what the establishment wants. I don't care what other people want. I do try very hard to support my citizens that put me in office, and I knew that Baxter County is a very conservative county, and they did not want this. I know we need highway tax. I'm not highway tax. I don't mean that. We need highway money. But I feel like, Paul, we do not reach out and find places within our revenues and lower other things in order to do it. And until they do some of those things, I cannot support another tax.
And I think most of the people listening to this right now really appreciate that, and they really appreciate that mentality. And I wish more of the politicians down there had that mentality. This is how long have you been serving as a state representative, Nelda?
This is my third term. 2.5 years? 4.5 years. We're into our third term. And 2-year terms. So I just, I'm very conservative, Paul, and I just feel like that we are putting such a load on our citizens, especially our middle income people that work so hard, and they have families they're trying to support, and it's just, my heart goes out to them. We've all been there.
So how does this past session compare to the other two that you've been a part of so far?
I actually thought this was one of our hardest sessions. I know every year, every time we go into session, there are some things that they start shoving at us. And but this one here, it drug out all through the session of just big things like the highway tax, the internet tax, and we have a big cigarette tax that got put on the citizens.
Yes.
Which I don't smoke, but I feel like every time we reach out, we look for a sin tax that we can tax more on them, and I think we're taxing our citizens to the point that it's such a load on them. Mm-hmm. I tried to find out, if you take into consideration, Paul, all of the taxes that just we keep putting on our citizens, and how much out of a dollar bill do they actually get to bring home?
Oh, it's quite a bit. I mean, when you add up the federal and state and local, I mean, it's probably 50%, if not more.
I figured it's at least 60%, but I have not been able to get that answer.
Yeah. Well,
but that's...
You're right. We're talking with State Representative Nelda Speaks. You're right. I think that in Arkansas specifically, we're at a breaking point. We have one of the highest sales taxes in the nation. We've got one of the we were number 17th on the list of worst places to live when it comes to the tax code. We're 44th in income in the United States, and so we've got a lot of work that we can do. Nelda, feel free. All right, folks, welcome back to the program. We appreciate it. We are here, Johnny Cash Friday, for our terrestrial radio stations, playing the impression of the session from Nelda Speaks for our online audience. That was yesterday, State Representative Nelda Speaks. And now we have another impression of the session. Please welcome to the program. We have State Representative John Payton is with us. John, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. Good morning.
Good
to see you.
Let me turn your mic on. That would help. And let me go ahead and, sorry. I'm on the ball here. All right.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we're good. We're good. So let's just start generally. John Payton, what was your impression of the session 2019?
Well, I have tried, knowing that was your topic, to wrap it up, and I'm unable to. I mean, I have highs and lows. As the sessions go by, and this is my third general session. My goodness, there are things that I'm delighted about. I love voting, for against the abortion issue, and for the bills that we've been passing in the last 6 years. And then I get so frustrated, at the revenue side of things when we continue to pass revenue increases, and how the revenue is spent. So anyway, I can't wrap it into one thing. I mean, the session is torture in a lot of ways, because you're doing the highs and lows, trying to take care of my businesses and personal life. And by the end of the session, I usually get very physically run down.
Yeah.
And again, this year, in the last week, I was sick, taking antibiotics and everything.
Well, I think you're one of the best, one of the better state representatives voting record. I think it's because you do have a job back home. Honestly.
Well, I appreciate that. I still consider myself a voter and a constituent more than a state representative.
Yeah.
But government will continue to operate when I'm not in it. And what we do today is laying foundations and principles for how it's going to operate when I'm not there. And, I'm going to live my life out as a constituent, not as a bureaucrat.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. We're talking with State Representative John Payton. Now, John, you voted no on the bill to continue the levy of the 0.5% sales tax that's set to expire. Voted no on that bill. You also voted no on internet sales tax. And you voted no on the gas tax increase. Now, my question to you, you're one of 12 Republicans that voted no on all three of those bills. So how did you stand up to the establishment's argument saying we've got to have more money from the people?
Well, again, I've been there for 6 years, and revenue has continued to increase over that time. I had the figures in my head and could quote them readily during the session, but I think it was over $800 million worth of revenue growth since I've been in there. And my argument is we do need the funding for roads and bridges for highway program, but it's been there, and we could have done it just purely through growth. And Jonathan Barnett introduced a bill, and I'm trying to think who reintroduced one, Julie Mayberry, this go-around, that would have just taken some growth in sales tax revenue, even limited to automobiles and car parts and things, and devoted that to roads and bridges. And if we had done that 6 years ago, that problem would be cured now. If we had done it in this session, it'd be cured in a very short period of time going forward. But anyway, it's easier to spend the revenue we have on things that the people would not approve of, and then hold up something that's very important to the constituents and say we don't have enough money to do roads and bridges or K through 12,
Yes.
And so when I look at the bottom line, I believe there's plenty of money there, and we need to go back and reprioritize where we're spending it.
I want to go back to the revenue growth here in just a minute, but at the end of the day, do you think the people of Arkansas are paying more money to the government after the 92nd General Assembly than before?
Absolutely. I think it's been proven in the numbers that we got for this month, a record month in revenue. And most of those laws and bills have not even taken place. But, I'm a car dealer.
Right.
And if you give me a pencil and a pen, I can do math. And when you have people doing projections 5 or 10 years down the road to say this is what something's going to cost, or this is what something is going to raise in revenue, they're going to be biased in their opinions, and they're going to have to make estimates and guesses. And what seems to happen over and over again is when we project down the road how much a tax cut is going to reduce revenue, it seems to get over projected. And when we project down the road 8 or 10 years how much a tax increase or a revenue increase of some kind, how much it's going to bring in, that seems to get underestimated.
Yes.
And so, I'm very leery when they say that they're going to bring a balanced bill, that is revenue neutral, because that's based on projections 8 or 10 years down the road, and they made the math come out as revenue neutral, but I'm very suspicious most of the time as to whether or not it's going to play out that way.
And you're right, because the government estimates are wrong. The headline in the Arkansas Democrat Gazette today, Michael Wickline, revenue in April at record for state. Now, you went to the floor on the roads bill, on the gas tax, both of those bills, and you said, hey, listen, like you said, since you've been there, how long have you been there?
I've been there 6.5 years.
6.5 years. We have had a revenue growth to the state of Arkansas, more money to the people, just based on, the economy or whatever. Just they keep getting more of our money, $500 million.
That's what it was.
That's $500 million. And you're saying we could just say everything extra we get from the people, We're going to get to this next year, whatever. We could just pay our roads that way. And that was logical. You are proven right in this month. I mean, this month they had a 15% more over their projections. The general revenue collections increased $116 million this month alone over the same month a year ago. So they've already gotten $116 million more.
And Paul, it's not hard to figure because, I mean, consumer spending is going up. Wages are going up, not only because of the mandatory minimum wage raise, but also just because of competition. Unemployment numbers are down, which means there's more people employed. All of those things generate sales tax and income tax, and all of those things are going to raise revenue. It's pretty obvious. I had a bill that would have given some sales tax relief on cheaper used cars and raised the exemption from $4,000 to $7,500. When you buy a car under $7,500, it would have been exempt from sales tax. It had a revenue impact of a little over $12 million. And so they were asking me, how are you going to pay for it? They're in this mindset, you know, that you have to pay for a tax cut. And I went to BLR jokingly and said, how do I draft an appropriation bill to pay for a tax cut? I mean, you know, it's that absurd.
Yeah.
But anyway, I kept telling them over and over again, revenue growth will easily cover this $12 million hit to the budget. And obviously,
let's talk about that bill. That was a bill that would have been great for low-income families. You've got a used car that's been taxed several times already. It would increase the exemption for sales tax from $4,000 or less than $4,000 to $7,500. That'd have been huge for middle-class
exactly.
people.
I mean, people need dependable transportation. If they're going to get on their feet and get back to work, first of all, employers need dependable employees that are going to show up to work. Well, if their car breaks down or won't start in the morning, they're not going to be to work on time.
Yep.
So the more dependable the transportation is, the more important it is, you know, for their new job and to get on their feet. And then, of course, they need low maintenance. Well, you buy a vehicle under $4,000 to avoid the sales tax, and it's going to be higher maintenance than, of course, if you can buy a little better vehicle for $7,000 or $69.95. There's so many components. As a car dealer, you know, I can take a vehicle for $69.95 and probably get you a 6-month, 6,000-mile warranty included. You get under $4,000, I mean, that's just not going to happen.
Right.
And so, you know, my argument was struggling families needed it, but it's not just a benefit to struggling families. I mean, it doesn't matter if you make $100,000, $200,000 a year. You may choose to buy a cheaper vehicle at some point for an employee or for one of your kids going to college or whatever. And so, you know, anybody could take advantage of it. It wasn't focused, you know, exemption for a certain population. I mean, anybody could take advantage of it. But obviously, more than anything, it helps struggling families, you know, get back on their feet.
We're talking with State Representative John Payton. It's his impression of the session. He's from Cleburne County. Your district, you were saying, does go south of Heber Springs. That wraps around?
It does. So it starts at the county line, which Rosebud's in White County. So I don't get Rosebud, but it starts there at the county line, Cleburne County line. It runs north and then east of Heber Springs, which is where I live, out past Wilburn. And then it comes back and goes north of Heber Springs and over to Greers Ferry, includes Greers Ferry. Then it heads straight up between Mountain View and Marshall, and it stops just south of Mountain Home. So Greers Ferry and Norfolk are my two largest towns.
Hey, yeah. Wow, that's fantastic. That's great. All right, well, so he's given his impression of the session. Now, we've got all this money that's coming, and I've seen the numbers. We're going to be releasing those numbers very soon at conduitnews.com. DFNA zone numbers in terms of fiscal year 2020, fiscal year 2021, just how much money is coming from the people. When you take everything you've done, the tax cut, the income tax cuts, which was good, but then you look at the gas tax increase, all of these things, you look at the numbers, what's it going to be? Because, see, I don't think the people care. Like, the gas tax starts October, like they're collecting. Internet sales tax starts in July, they start collecting, right? These tax cuts, though, 2 years. Corporate income tax cuts start, you know, it doesn't get fully realized, you know, even further. And you can't bind future legislatures. So if anything out past 2 years is irrelevant, in my opinion, because you guys are going to come back and you could undo all of that if you wanted to. Case in point, the half-cent sales tax is supposed to expire, and the 2012 legislature promised that it would. And your colleague, not you, but, you know, now they put it on the ballot to keep it.
Right, and we definitely, I hope that the people vote that down.
Me too.
I learned a very harsh lesson in my first term, and of course I believe in local government and I believe in local control, and so we had a resolution, which it was my first term, and you go into a general session with 2 weeks worth of orientation under your belt, and so we had a resolution to put a constitutional amendment on the ballot, and it was the one that dealt with the term limits and some other things, and so I was sitting there going to vote no on this resolution. I wasn't in the committee that it came through, and I didn't like the resolution, and somebody leaned over and said, well, you don't have to worry about it. All you're doing is referring it out to the people to vote for. And I thought, well, that goes with my principle of local control and things. So I voted yes on it. Well, man, I wish I hadn't have, So I've learned over time, you better read them, you better know what they are. And if you would be against it, then don't just refer it out to the people to let them decide. But if you're against it, vote against it.
Right.
And so that's what I did this time. And I voted against that one, but it is going out to the people, and I hope the people vote it down.
Me too. We're looking at a $290 million increase if it passes.
And I would like to go back to the car tax just long enough to say most of my colleagues supported that. We had 87 co-sponsors in the House, had plenty of votes in the Senate to get it passed. In the Senate committee, I had 5 votes, which is what's required to get it passed, but it was late in the session, and they have to be in their seats. If there's any opposition, I have to get all 5 votes there at the same time, and we weren't able to do that.
And I understand there were people running different directions, and it was really difficult to coordinate. And let's just give everybody the benefit of the doubt, and let's say that it really just was a process that it would just.
Well, and I met with the governor and his staff, and they never did get on board and come out and support it.
Yeah.
That would have helped, and it definitely probably would have got it across the finish line if we could have got.
Absolutely, it would have been huge for low-income families who are wanting to get to work, and I was in the market for a car. I was hoping it was going to pass. All right, so we're talking with State Representative John Payton. Let's talk about Arkansas Works. Towards the end of the session, a federal judge strikes it down, says work requirements can't happen. Now I know they're challenging that. Trump administration's challenging that ruling, but. What were your thoughts on that? Immediately, like right before that ruling came out, I'm assuming it leaked and they forced through the DHS appropriations budget in the Senate, and the next day, less than 48 hours, they were asking the House to vote on it as well. What were your thoughts on that?
Well, there were rumors on the House floor more than 48 hours in advance that this was likely going to be ruled against, and that we needed to speed up the legislative process, on that bill. I really, when I was hearing the rumors and they were talking about, we've got to hurry, I was like, I'm not as naive as I used to be. And even though I'm against the expansion and against this bill, and we'll vote against that stuff, I guess as long as I'm there, I had no reason to believe that even if the judge ruled against it, that we were going to throw the expansion in the trash can.
Right.
And so I was a little shocked that they were running around on the rumors saying we need to speed up the process for this legislation because there's a possibility the judge is going to rule against it. And to me, that was, kind of tongue in cheek.
That's so dishonest that they would be doing that because they just are trying.
I think they were generally worried, but I don't know why they would be.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So anyway, the thing about the work requirement that came out in all of that was because of the judge's ruling. Several people who have said, we've got a work requirement, had to say, it's not that important. People who are removed from the expansion because of the work requirement, it happens in the second quarter earliest it can happen. Usually it's the third and fourth quarter of the year, and they're all re-eligible January 1st. So even though you remove, 40 or 50,000 people, and I don't think it's ever been that many, because of the work requirement, then January 1st, they're all eligible again. So you may save, 6 months or at the very most 7 or 8 months on it. But
and you're taking the. If you're Blue Cross Blue Shield, you're really excited about this, and they probably have a list of all the people that have been thrown off, which is not many. But they
well,
probably have that
I think
list.
there's a lot of people on that list that don't exist.
Well, I mean, that's a good point.
I think I think we found out that there were a lot of people that were living out of state or just couldn't be located at all that had been on there for the first year or two.
Yeah, we definitely did. But I'm saying if you're Blue Cross Blue Shield, if you can make sure that that's an actual person, you need to be. They're probably calling them back. Spend $1 million to get them signed back up because you're getting $600 a month per person, regardless of whether they go to the doctor or not. So,
exactly.
I think you're going to see it balloon if it stands. If it continues to stand, the portal's shut down. Nobody has to report anything right now. So, that to me was a big deal, and it was interesting to hear. I believe it was State Representative Grant Hodges on the floor that gave a really good speech saying, we've been told before that without the work requirement, this program is unsustainable. Now, I think it's unsustainable even with the requirement, but that's true, right? And yet it's just like, well, we're not going to have this fight again. And it's like, well, hang on, the circumstances have changed, and you guys only have constitutional power once every 2 years outside of a special session.
Well, and I believe society needs to break its dependence on government. And when we say government, we're talking about programs that taxpayers pay for. And so a growing percentage of the population is dependent on whatever percentage is left of the population that's paying the taxes. And, we need self-reliance and personal responsibility in our society if we're going to have a civil society.
Yeah.
If we're always just looking in our neighbor's pocket for what we can pull out for ourselves, that's just not going to work.
Yeah.
And we've been on a path for many years that has been growing the population that's dependent on government. I'm not against social programs if they're handled at a local basis, because your neighbors know whether you're worthy or trying to get back on your feet.
They can monitor it.
But boy, when you make a cookie cutter program, I see constituents fall through the cracks that need help, that deserve the help and qualify for the help, that didn't get it because of all the red tape.
Yeah.
And then you see people that I know that are neighbors of mine that live in the community and that they have other means and they have physical ability to work and they're signed up on all the programs, and I don't think I'm unique to that. I think every citizen in the United States has seen it in examples around them.
Yeah. State Representative John Payton, I really appreciate you stopping by this morning.
My pleasure. Thanks for the coffee.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. His impression of the session, ladies and gentlemen, State Representative John Payton. I appreciate your no votes on tax increases. We got to take a break back in a minute. Things that happened, in terms of the social issues. But I'd like to ask you this. Do you think it's apparent based on the tax increases that we have a lot more consensus on the social issues, but we don't have that same consensus on economic freedom issues and smaller government issues?
I think that's what's happening, since that's the one thing I guess I've been more surprised in when I came into office. You begin to see.
Are you a conservative-minded young person and want to let the world know about it? Are you tired of rolling your eyes as your professor regurgitates progressive, PC, neo-Marxist nonsense? Then you should interview on Conduit News Radio's Young Conservative segment and tell us about why you believe the way you do. Tell us how you came to be a conservative and what are your views on government. Now, if you're worried that your neo-Marxist professor may also be a right-wing talk radio listening masochist, then names can be changed to protect the innocent. It's the Conduit News Radio Conservative Future segment. To be interviewed, call 870-275-9799. That's 870-275-9799. If you're like me, you believe that small business is the heart of Arkansas's economic engine, and it should be viewed that way by the politicians in Little Rock. Conduit for Commerce also believes, like you and I believe, policies that achieve less regulation and lower taxation help small business in Arkansas thrive. Other policies like small, constitutionally consistent government and reducing citizen dependency on government keeps it from growing and expanding its influence on our daily lives. Conduit for Commerce works every day to educate the general public and legislators on these important priorities in the name of Arkansas small business. By the way, Contributions to Conduit for Commerce are tax deductible. Log on now to conduitforcommerce.org and click on Contact Us on the right side of the page. That's conduitforcommerce.org. Go there now and learn the facts on protecting small business in Arkansas.
Government, that's where I came from. And you see that people really, Republicans, we'll talk about them because I am a Republican, that we stand for, it's easy for us to stand up here on the social part. And we're for guns, we are against abortions, we're against gay rights, we're against those things. But then when you come to the fiscal part, it just doesn't seem to bother that we step up here and we'll vote for any tax that they throw at us. And I don't know, can't seem to stand up against the establishment. They don't seem to understand what in the long haul we are doing to our citizens.
Well, there are people like you, Nelda, who seem to have it figured out. Why can't there just be more Nelda Speaks in the Arkansas General Assembly?
Well, I don't know. I don't know what causes it.
Yeah, that's a terrible question. I'll take that one back. But you know what I mean. That's just.
I know. You don't bother me, Paul.
All right, but real quick, because I want to let you listen to the end of the song. I love this song. It's fantastic. He turned the water into wine. Arkansas, thank you so much for listening to the program. Thank you for being with us all week. This concludes our 10th hour of radio this week. I want to remind you guys to go to conduitnews.com and to get this video and go to our YouTube channel to get this video of John Payton and his impression of the session. He's one of the good guys, you can tell. He has a very good understanding of the pitfalls of government and the benefits of limited government. Conduit News YouTube, subscribe to the channel and click the little bell to receive notifications. Also, go to patreon.com/CNR, stands for Conduit News Radio, patreon.com/CNR, and kick in $5 a month and you get access to the bonus video that will be out later today. And that's all the time we have for today. Arkansas, thank you so much for being with us. Be safe.